1, 2, 3, 4.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bang chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bang chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.
What up, y'all? It's Babylon 5 Podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine Event. How are you guys doing? How's yous guys doing? This is episode 155, and I'm calling this bad boy Free Britney Griner. Alright? Episode 155 will be simply called Free Britney Griner. I don't think it necessarily needs to be explained, but we will talk about it, obviously, on this episode. It would make no sense. It would make no logical sense to name this episode that and then not even at some point touch on, and then not even at some point touch on. Why is this mic like, it's kind of like dipping. Like, it wasn't as low as it is, or as it was just there. All of a sudden, it was, like, on my lap. My mic just suddenly dipped down. Sorry there, ladies and gentlemen. But, yeah, it would make no sense to call this episode. It's just dipping. Oh, okay. Let me try that. It's, like, not on tightly or some shit. Or is it bent? Oh, shit. It looks broken. The thing... Oh, no, it's not broken. It's just not on tight, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's going on. I'm a Weisenheimer. I think that's what's going on here. Alright, now we got the mic in the right place, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, it's hard. You know, it's live action troubleshooting there. It's what we do here as audio engineers. It's just troubleshoot. And then you get about a good hour of trouble free, and then troubleshoot. This is the life, ladies and gentlemen. If we want to go over everything we're going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about UFC Vegas 59 that just happened, headlined by Jamal Hill versus Thiago Santos Marreta. We're definitely going to talk about some fights in that card, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about next week. I don't believe this fight is taking place in Vegas. But let's just say UFC Fight Night, Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz. That's the headline fight for next week's card. We're going to talk about that. And we were going to talk about Britney Griner and less than half a gram of hash oil. It's a cannabis oil from the article that I was reading. We are going to touch on that and the consequences of that less than half a gram. We're going to talk about Britney Griner, ladies and gentlemen. But if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. If you guys would like to email this podcast, it's at babylon5podcast@gmail.com. You guys can hit that like button anywhere that you're listening to this podcast. I'd appreciate it so much. If you guys would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Babylon5. I know I was like, I'm about to start streaming hella multiverses. I have multiverses, and multiverses was described to me as like this great new alternative to Super Smash Bros. I haven't played Smash Bros in quite some time. I was like, I'll check that out. It's not Smash Bros, alright? Similar. Like, I don't like the free-for-all where it's like, I don't know, it seems like a minute. It seems like a minute long round. Maybe you can tweak that, but instead of like eliminating players instead of giving them a certain amount of lives. And then it's like, okay, and then there's 3, and then there's 2. There's usually, when I play Smash Bros, there'd be like dramatic comebacks. You know what I'm saying? At least for a nigga like me, there'd be dramatic comebacks in there. You know what I'm saying? On either side, that's what made the game so fun. But this one is like, here's a minute, person with the most ring outs wins. And it's also bogus because it's like, if I'm playing online and y'all just match me up with random motherfuckers, like, it's like I hit random. I just give me a random character, like, for the free for all, and like everybody had Superman, except for one nigga. He had his character. I'm not sure who the fuck that was. I'm not familiar with all the characters on the game. But one of us, like, I was like level 1 Superman. Another guy was level 1 Superman. Another guy was level 10 fucking Superman. The other guy was like level 2, whatever the fuck that character was. Level 10 Superman could do so much more than us. And as I'm playing, I'm like, fuck, I'm unlocking triple jump. I'm unlocking this. It's like I don't even have the capabilities to compete with these niggas right now because unlike Smash Bros, I have to like consistently play with a certain character to level it up. It's pretty bogus. I don't know if there's many games like this. This is the first game that I've played that's just this cheap. It's cheap, my niggas. I'm not into that whole, give me all the abilities, let me master the character that I fucking want to play with. If I was great with Captain Falcon, but I got to get the game and play with Captain Falcon 1,000 times before I can get the fucking Falcon punch, like, that's fucking whack. Like, I don't know. And it's like that nigga over there has played 1,000 games with Superman, so he gets a quadruple jump. And I'm just a nigga that just started playing today. And even if I knew how to play the game, that shit's not even available to me. Multiverses, the fighting style and whatnot is a little bit, you know, similar to Smash Bros, but it's just it's not Smash Bros. It's not Smash Bros. So yeah, I've been playing Fallout lately. Fallout 4 again, because I guess I'm just one for the classics. You know what I'm saying? I'm just one for the classics. Multiverses, poo on you. Shame. And as for that, when I do play Multiverses, I play with Arya Stark. But yeah, I think if unless I do random, I try to, because you have to fucking level up. I gotta play with this character consistently so that I can get the fucking triple jump. So this nigga ain't showing me up. You know what I'm saying? So that it's a fair fucking playing field. I know niggas could fucking get Kirby, and that shit's not fair. But I don't care what you niggas say. If y'all could fucking play with Kirby and or just perfectly time that fucking up B with Mario, nigga, those are cheat codes. But I was a Captain Falcon nigga. I ain't fuck with them characters. I fuck with the real niggas. You know what I'm saying? Multiverses, shame on you. Okay? Shame on you. If you guys would like to cop some merchandise, head on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, don't just be my niche, be my patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5pod and you could be my patron today. You could be my patron today. When I started babbling about these social medias here, I was talking about the Britney Griner thing. We're going to come back to that later. But I just wanted to briefly, I was annoyed. I was talking about it at work, and just this random customer was just like, don't go to their country and break their laws. And I, you know, me and the nigga I'm talking to, we just kind of look at her like, okay, like, what the fuck are you talking about? The fuck are you talking about? Like, my God. My God. This bitch never broke any fucking laws in her life. You ain't never fucking jaywalked. You ain't did nothing fucking harmless as put something in your bag that you fucking didn't want to be there at the time. That shit's nonsense. Couldn't believe that lady even fucking had the nerve to say, don't go to their country and break their laws. Like, bitch. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up talking to me. We're going to talk about UFC right now. Alright? We're going to talk about UFC. We got two new Ultimate Fighters. Muhammad Usman and Juliana Miller become the new Ultimate Fighters. Muhammad Usman looked pretty slow in there against this guy, but he gets the knockout. He kept just throwing these hooks. Hook after hook after hook after hook, and eventually the hook landed and he knocked Pauga out. And he is now the Ultimate Fighting Champion. But that's what I was curious. It was like, you guys get the contract. And I was like, I'm curious what that contract is. Is it just like am I getting the same contract as a nigga that fights on the Dana White Contender Series? Because you're not like getting too much more exposure for being on the Ultimate Fighter. Who the fuck I watched like 1.5 episodes of the Ultimate Fighter, and honestly, I like the fights. I like watching fights. So like I like to watch the fights at the end of the episodes, but like I don't care for that show at all. Like, and it got to the point like within the second episode, I was like, I can't even do it. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I don't need the real world in between my cage fights. And that's what they try to do. They try to blend like the real world with the cage fights. And it's unneeded, but younger brother of Muhammad Usman, I think he was listed at 6'1", and somebody's pointed it out. He's listed it because Kamaru Usman came in the ring. He came in the octagon after the fight. Usman was taller. Kamaru was taller than Muhammad, and Kamaru is listed at 6 feet, and Muhammad is listed at 6'1". So we were like, what the fuck? Like, Muhammad is listed as taller, and he fights what, three weight classes up, but he's shorter. He's like, if he I clearly don't see it happening. But I was thinking, like, I was going to say, like, if he dieted, if he had proper dieting, he could probably fight at 185, if not 170, easily. You guys, like, that'd be fucking, like, who would fucking do that? Fucking Jared Cannonier? That nigga's cut like a blender. He's just all muscle right now. But he once fought at heavyweight, and his body type was similar to Muhammad Usman's. And now he just fought Adesanya. He just fought for the belt. He lost, but that's what I'm saying. He got his diet in order and he dropped down. He's shorter than Usman. Yeah, he's huge. How is he that big with abs like that? Because he's a big dude. He's got a lot of fucking weight on him. As I'm saying, he's shorter than his brother, who's the 170. And he's just huge with abs. He's bigger than the guy he was fighting, and that guy was flabby. I don't know what I'm saying here. But it was just, this guy's a fucking specimen, I'll say. These niggas are a different breed, these Usman brothers. But Muhammad is definitely not Kamaru. Did he even wrestle? Because if he can wrestle, I don't know why he just kept throwing these hooks. And it's just, that's it. Just hook after hook after hook. It's like, bro, you just keep spamming the same punch, like jab. Throw a jab in there, bro. Just jab him. Just get in there. Set this up. Set it up, bro. You just keep throwing these hooks. But he's not Kamaru. Kamaru was not Kamaru when he first came into the UFC, so it'll be interesting to watch Muhammad Usman's UFC journey. As I said, Juliana Killer Miller becomes the Ultimate Fighting Champion. She looks like Jar Jar Binks, or she reminds me of Jar Jar Binks. Dude, Twitter was like in an uproar, just with the mixed reactions. I was like, I don't even know who the fuck this is, but like Twitter's going crazy right now that this Juliana Miller woman is about to fight. People were going, there's many different reactions. A lot of funny shit. A lot of disrespectful shit. I'll be here. I just said Jar Jar Binks, but like when I saw her, that's all I could think was fucking Jar Jar Binks. It's just funny to me. But Jar Jar Binks goes on to defeat Brogan Walker. She goes on to beat the shit out of Brogan Walker, honestly. I remember I was watching the Face Off, and Juliana... Well, Brogan had this like real mean face on her in the Face Off, like, and then Juliana just like walks up and gets in her face like, I'm not scared of you. Like, it was just like a real interesting moment. And as I was watching on Twitter and they had the little Face Off playing like up next, they like cut it off right before that happens, and I was like, that was the best part of that whole Face Off. And then she goes on to dominate Brogan Walker. Out-muscled her, out-grappled her, and yeah, she looked better in the striking. It was like Brogan's best bet in there was to just make it dirty, just in and out with strikes, but just trying not to, like, definitely not grapple. She was out-muscled in every grappling exchange, so she definitely did not want to do that. But she ends up getting finished by Juliana Miller via TKO, ground and pound. And then Miller jumps up, gives her the DX crotch chop. And I was thinking, like, yo, this girl, she's a young girl. I'm like, she's too young. Like, was she even born when DX was going on? I was like, she's probably not doing that because of DX. But then in the post-fight, they asked her about the DX-style crotch chop she gave her opponent at the end of the fight. And she explained that when her grandmother came to this country, she didn't speak English, so she would try to learn English by watching TV. Now, her grandmother raised her from like I don't know, when she was like 0 to 5 or some shit like that, or some amount of time, maybe 2 to 5, some amount of time, till she was 5 years old. She was raised by her grandmother, and her grandmother, her favorite show to watch was wrestling, because she didn't speak English. And she didn't need to speak English to know what was going on with wrestling. It was just all dramatic, like, you know, action. So she didn't need... So, like, she 100% did that because of DX. And I was like, at the end of that fight, Twitter was abuzz about that crotch chop and just Juliana Miller. I was like, damn, she made, like, hella fans just with that simple gesture. Right there, just DX fucking GIFs everywhere after that fight. So shout out to Muhammad Usman and Juliana Miller. Those were interesting fights, to say the least. And I was curious about those contracts, you know what I'm saying? I think I said this, but like, are those the same contracts? If I'm an Ultimate Fighter winner, I feel like back in the day, didn't they win like money? Isn't it like you win the Ultimate Fighter and you get like $1 million or some shit? Why don't you guys go to PFL? You get $1 million for that. Could fight Anthony Pettis twice a year. And now people know Stevie Ray. I had no idea who Stevie Ray was. But I know he beat Anthony Pettis twice. I know who he is now. And now he's going to fight for $1 million. Yeah, he's not the Ultimate Fighting Champion. But he's about to win $1 million. And he was just saying before that fight, he was trying to tell young fighters they need to test the waters. They're addicted to the fame that the UFC could bring. It can bring you, so they're chasing that. But I think PFL is a great option for a lot of fighters. You could go there and win $1 million early in your career. Quit your fucking job and train and become the best martial artist that you could be. And then you'll be fully ready. You'll be fully ready for the UFC if that call does come. But I see no reason why younger fighters wouldn't try to go to, like, just avoid the UFC early on. These people are coming here 2-3 fights, and now they're in the UFC. And now they're about to fight this guy with fucking 20 fights, 8 years in the UFC. And then they get fucking destroyed. I think Alex Caceres versus the guy with the curly hair, or the guy who had the curly hair. With the M&Ms. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know the guy I'm talking about. He was doing the shit with Ben Askren. Forget that guy's name. But yeah. Anywho, congrats to them. I'm not sure about the contracts, but I think they should get more. And younger fighters should definitely look to go elsewhere, man. I don't think you're getting any more fame off of being on The Ultimate Fighter, because nobody's watching that show. All right? No one is watching that show. All people do is talk about how much no one watches that show. And it's just not interesting. The fights are, just give me a synopsis of the fighters. Show me a quick rundown of the training, and possibly if there's certain things that they're working on. Like, give us those insights for these specific fights if that's what they're doing. Like, yo, Muhammad does this, so try to focus on this. But, like, show us, like, just a quick synopsis of that. Get rid of the house bullshit. These people don't need to live in a house together. They could live in separate compounds, go to separate gyms. And you could show us them training for the opponent they're having. And it's just like, there's no reason for them to live together. There's no reason for any of that bullshit real world drama. Because nobody's watching this shit. I don't know who's watching this shit. But I know what I was watching. Also last night, man, Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal. I said last week I feel like Jeff Neal will dominate. I did not say that. I said I felt like Vicente Luque would dominate Jeff Neal. I felt like Luque was better than Neal everywhere. Boy, was I wrong. Neal was all over this nigga. I was shocked, though, because after 2... based off of what I saw, I'm like, whoa, man, this guy is just a shutout through 2 rounds. Neal is all over Luque. But Twitter is like, yep, Luque just tied it up. I'm like, he tied it up. He was getting beat up in there just because he didn't fall. He got knocked down in the first. Just because he didn't fucking hit the canvas, he was getting battered in there. Definitely did not think Luque had tied it up in the second. I was like, dude, what the fuck happened to Luque? Luque was a backup. He was a backup fighter for the belt. I forget which fight it was. I think it was potentially Colby and Usman. If not, Usman versus Gilbert Burns. He was a backup fighter for one of those fights. If not, Usman versus Masvidal. He was a backup fighter for the title fight recently. Because that's where we thought he'd be, fighting for the belt soon. Now he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He gets finished here by Jeff Neal in the 3rd round. Just an absolute onslaught. Like, Luque is 29 years old, you know. He still could potentially have a lot of fight left in him, but it's It's not trending in the right direction currently. I don't know where Luque goes from here. Maybe take some time off. Maybe switch gyms. There was like no head movement there. His striking, there was Neil was able to just throw at will because the target was always just right there on the center line. There was no head movement. Neil was all over and he finished this man. I felt like it was a late stoppage. He's just spamming uppercut, 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 uppercut. Luque's not moving. And then eventually Luque fucking face plants. He falls face first and then the ref finally fucking jumps in and stops it. But I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Stop the fight. Like, what more do you need to see? You needed to see him fucking look like he's about to die. Unfortunately. But Neil looks like he's improved quite a bit. I believe there's no way this man is still a full-time waiter. They're talking about how he was saying he was going to keep his waiter job because that's a guaranteed paycheck. Like, there's no way he's fighting like that. And, like, he's improved a lot, I feel. They're telling me he's fighting that well, so much better, and he's still a full-time waiter while training? I don't believe so. I don't believe that's the case. But he calls out Gilbert Burns next. I did not see that coming, but that is a beautiful call out. Gilbert Burns says he likes that fight. Gilbert Burns reacts and says he likes that fight. Burns fought Wonderboy after Wonderboy beat Luque because Luque is one of his best friends and he wanted to get that back, and he did. So Burns says he likes that fight. I would love to see Jeff Neal versus Gilbert Burns, since it looks like Masvidal is scared of Gilbert Burns. I've seen him duck the whole concept of Gilbert Burns altogether repeatedly, or just on multiple occasions. He said on Twitter, like, yeah, once I get done with this legal trouble, we can, like, do something. But even after that, he was calling out, like, come on, Conor, let's go. Let's fight Conor. He just did an interview recently. I saw it the other day. I think Friday they came out with it. It was either Thursday or Friday. And this nigga was like, they asked him straight up about who he would like to fight next. Like, he's like, I've heard talk about Gilbert Burns, blah, blah. And he was like, honestly, I think the best matchup for me right now is Conor McGregor. Like, nigga, no, it's not, bro. Conor's a lightweight. Conor's literally a lightweight. You're a welterweight. Just because he's bulking up and talking about fighting at 170. You're, like, ranked in the top 5. Conor's not a ranked welterweight. It just doesn't make any sense. He's ducking. Like, it's like, yeah, if you clearly think you should be there in the top 5, you'd be like, yeah, I want to fight Gilbert Burns. But when Gilbert Burns is brought up, he usually, like, tries to change the subject, tries to put the attention on another fighter. Somebody smaller. He usually doesn't fight in this weight class and get hit by fucking welterweights. He's trying to fight Conor. He's trying to get that last money fight before he has to retire. He wants that money fight because he knows he's got all these he's facing 3 felonies for his assault on Colby Covington when he saw online that he was at this restaurant, if you guys don't know, and then he snuck up on Colby and said, you shouldn't have been talking shit about my family. He didn't talk shit about his family, he just mentioned his family. And then they went into a cage for 25 minutes straight. He lost. He got that ass beat. He got that ass beat after he was talking about his family. And then he fucking had to run up on him and sneak him coming out of this restaurant that he saw he was at online because he couldn't fight him fair. That's literally what he could not beat him in a fair fight. So 2 weeks later, he snuck up on him. So that's why he really wants to fight Conor. He's hoping to fight Conor right now because he needs that cash. He's about to go bankrupt. If not face prison time. He's facing 3 felonies. Like, he did it. It's premeditated attack, as you guys can see, and then right after the attack, post the video. He's all breathing hard, like, I told you, like, don't ever talk about my family. This is real. Like, and he's like, I got you. Like, why don't you post right now? Like, the smile, like, show your teeth or show your face challenge or some shit like that is what he was saying. Like, right after he does this attack, he goes online and snitches on himself, confirms that he did this shit. So if he doesn't face prison time, he's going to need the money from this counter fight. Because real fights don't matter no more. He just potentially threw it all away. So I want to see Burns versus Neal, because Masvidal is certainly afraid of that man. He wants no part of Gilbert Burns by the looks of it. Why not do Jeff Neal versus Gilbert Burns? In the main event, Thiago Santos versus Jamal Hill. As I said last week, I believe I predicted that Jamal Hill would get the stoppage. I felt like Maheta's tough. John Jones couldn't even stop Maheta, but Jamal Hill was able to stop Thiago Santos in the 4th round. It was a great fight. It seemed like Santos didn't really want to stand. He was spamming takedown attempts. He was shooting nonstop. Where it was like, nobody expected to see Thiago shooting as much as he did, and he was able to take Hill down with ease in the 3rd round. And it was like, oh shit, now it's turning. He's able to get him down to the ground. Maybe he can tire him out, wrestle him, tire him out some, and change this fight. But unfortunately for Thiago, Hill was able to get the finish in the very next round. It was a pretty good fight. Hill had pretty good takedown defense early on, and when Thiago was able to get Hill down early on, like maybe in the 2nd round, Hill was able to pop right back up. So that was pretty nice to see. That he was definitely able to make smart decisions in the grappling. He had great defense. Jamal Hill went in there and did the damn thing. I was listening to Luke Thomas before the fights. I was watching Morning Combat, and he was saying how pre-John Jones fight, Thiago Santos had a strike differential ratio of 2.5 strikes or some shit like that, which was he was in the top 15. And since that fight, he's -3 point some shit, which is 150th or some shit like that, pretty far back. It's one of the worst strike differentials in the UFC, since that fight. So as I said last week, I didn't feel like we since that fight we haven't seen the old Thiago Santos. We haven't seen Thiago Santos of old. We've just seen an old Thiago Santos. Unfortunately, that seems to be the reality here. Seems like Santos is on gatekeeper status at this point, and he was able to close that gate on Johnny Walker, but he was not able to close that gate for Jamal Hill, who calls out Jan Blachowicz next. Since Yuri Prochazka is stating that he's probably going to fight Glover Teixeira, he's going to give Glover the immediate rematch. Hill would like to fight Jan Blachowicz next, so I think that would be a pretty interesting fight, to say the least, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pretty interesting fight. It was a great main event. people were hating on it beforehand. I hate when people hate on it. How do you hate on a fight card before it happens? Like, watch the fights. Find out, oh shit, I love every one of these fights. You know what I'm saying? That was a great card. This was a great card. 10 fights. Every fight on this card ended in a finish. All right, no judges necessary in this card. Sometimes I listen to this podcast online, these guys, Fight Night Picks, and I was listening to them talk about this card, and this one fight that really stood out to me was that I think the one guy picked Augusto Sakai to beat Sergey Spivak. And I commented on that video. I was like, dude, Sergey Spivak Sakai is gonna need a gun to beat Sergey Spivak. The only way I saw Sakai beating Sergey Spivak was if they allowed that man to walk in that octagon with a loaded handgun. All right? A knife wouldn't have been enough. All right? A knife wouldn't have been enough against Sergey. That man needed a loaded gun. And he got dominated by Sergey Spivak. And Spivak, my boy, is speaking English now. He unfortunately was like begging for a bonus, as a lot of fighters do once they can finally get that mic in their face. Most of the fighters like, yo, what the fuck? I've been in here. I've been in the UFC getting finishes for like 8 straight fights. Why don't I get a bonus? I'm fighting for $14,000 right now. I'm broke, nigga. I'm broke. All right? That's what everybody says when they get the mic in their face. But shout out to Sergey Spivak. Yo, they spelled his name completely different. I was looking at ESPN, all right, and then I was looking at Google. Google spells Sergey Spivak, as I'm reading it right here, Sergey. And that's not how I'm used to spelling Sergey. I spell it Serghei. And then Spivak is Spivac. But on Google, it's spelled Spivak. I'm like, what is the discrepancy here with how to spell this man's name? I'm going by the UFC, which is the C at the end of the Spivak, and then the Ghei for Sergey. Sam Alvey has most likely fought his last fight. As I knew it, he was going to get finished, knocked out by Michael Oleksiejczuk. Like, he's got heavy hands. That was a terrible fight for Sam Alvey. He was going in there talking about, yeah, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna get the finish and they're gonna give me a new contract. They've been telling this man to retire apparently, but they're gonna let him just fight out his contract. And he was of the opinion that he was gonna beat Michael Oleksiejczuk. Dude, hopefully that's 9 straight fights, 9 straight losses. He now ties BJ Penn for a UFC record for most consecutive losses. All right, hopefully this is his last fight. At least in the UFC. If we're talking about the best fighters in the world, he clearly is not on that level. So at least cut him from the UFC. Let him go elsewhere. And see if he can hang with the smaller fish, if you will. Shout out to Brian Battle, who gets a finish. Looked a lot better in his, he fought at welterweight. I think it's a welterweight debut for the UFC. And he looked pretty good. Got a finish. Knocked out Takashi Soto in the very first round. 44 seconds. Corey McKenna back in the win column. Defeating Miranda Granger via Von Flue choke. Ladies and gentlemen, I think they said she's the first woman in UFC history to win via Von Flue. I love the Von Flue choke. As you guys should know, I always tried to set up in a situation where I could get the Von Flue when I was rolling jiu-jitsu, but I was never able to incorporate it. It's just a sneaky submission attempt. And I tried to just sneak that shit in. Shout out to Myra Bueno Silva. That shit was weird. There was like no camera angle that showed Stephanie Egger tapping, but Bueno Silva said she tapped, and then Egger was just like, at first Egger just like didn't say anything. She just had this look on her face and was just like looking at the ref, and like once she knew the ref didn't see it, she started saying like, I didn't tap, which is fucking dirty. You did tap. Hopefully you tapped. I don't know. There was no camera angle to see if she did tap. But they asked the judges, who I don't fuck with the judges like that. But the judge, I guess judges were needed in the night. So one of the judges said he saw her tap. So then it was confirmed that Bueno Silva won via submission. There's a lot of crying in the octagon about how she would never do anything like dirty like that. Like, it was real dramatic. But shout out to every fighter on this card for just a very exciting card. It was a really good card. You guys be hating on cards. Just watch the damn fights. Nigga, watch the fights. Next week, we got Chito Vera versus Dominic Cruz. Vera. My nigga Marlon. It's not my nigga Marlon. Shout out to Chito Vera, man. I would say with every passing Sugar Sean O'Malley fight, I grow to appreciate what Chito Vera was able to do in his fight against O'Malley. Just more and more, I'm starting to, and like we've really started to see the dog come out of Chito. Like in that Rob Font fight and his Frankie Edgar fight, we've seen Chito coming on as of late. Yeah, I like Chito. All right, I thought he was losing the fight against O'Malley and got lucky. I thought he lost the fight to Song Yadong. You know what I'm saying? But Chito has gotten better, all right? And I think Chito Vera will be able to get it done against Dominic Cruz. I just don't think, I don't think Cruz is bad. I think Cruz is a great fighter still. But I don't think the movement will be as much of a problem for Chito as it is for some people. I think Chito will be able to just put that pressure on Dominic and kind of take him off his game. I believe Chito will be able to do that. They're the same height. Chito's got 2.5 inch reach advantage. Let's see if he can manage that properly. I'm going with Marlon Vera here, man. I'm going with Chito. All right. I'm going with Chito next week. Shout out to Gerald Mearshard, who steps in against Bruno Silva. David Onama in action. Shout out to Angela Hill versus Lupita Godinez. Hopefully, Angela Hill gets a W here. I'm a big Angela Hill fan. This is a catchweight. I don't know what the catchweight is. Says they both fight at 115 here. So I'm not sure what the catchweight is. But Angela Hill versus Lupita Godinez. I'm hyped about that. Got Ode Osborne. Shout out to Ode Osborne versus Tyson Nam. Got Yusuf Zalal in action. I think his star has kind of fallen. Right? Is he on he's on a skid here, yeah. I felt like he initially, he beat Jordan Griffin. Then he beat this guy, Peter Barrett. And then he lost to Ilia Topuria. As one will. But then he lost to Sang-Woo Choi and Sean Woodson. That's a tough fight. And I don't know. Maybe we can see Yusuf Zalal bounce back here. I think he's a pretty good fighter. All right. hopefully his confidence, he can find his confidence and bounce back into the win column here. So, interested in that fight on Tuesday night. We have Bo Nickel fighting on the Dana White Contender Series. So maybe Bo Nickel will be, instead of fighting through the smaller promotions, I mean, he's got his wrestling pedigree. He dominated in his MMA debut. And now he is fighting on the Contender Series Tuesday night. I will be watching that and tweeting about it, live tweeting. So follow me on Twitter if you don't. If you want to talk about these fights on Tuesday, the Dana White Contender Series, Bo Nickel will fight for that. He will fight for a sandwich on Tuesday night. You know what's interesting? I'm saying this whole thing, fight for a sandwich. Dana White, and I'm just like, what's that contract like? He's fighting for $14,000. But, right. Also, Anthony Pettis, when he said niggas need to go test the waters and they're addicted to this fame that the UFC can bring them, he also mentioned that the secret mailbox money, and some niggas mentioned that, but he said that the secret mailbox money he got, like after he fought Benson Henderson, and I believe that's what the Showtime kick, and then he got on the Wheaties box and all that shit. I believe that's the situation. That's like when I was like just starting to watch UFC, like it was just a casual at that point. But he said he got his mailbox money. He received a check from Dana White for $1 million. All right. Ali Abdelaziz was just recently saying, like, people don't know what Dana White does for the fighters behind the scenes, so you guys can say what you want to say. And everybody was like, why is he defending Dana White? And then days after that, Showtime Pettis says, after his fight with Benson Henderson, he received a check in the mail for $1 million. So, you know, when you hear those kind of stories, man, it's like, fuck. Well, he's clearly not doing that for everybody. He's got people like Spivak fucking, like, please, I fought here, like, won all these fights. Like, why don't I get a bonus? Please, give me $50,000. Like, doesn't do it for everybody, but he clearly does things for a lot of people. I guess we just necessarily haven't seen them. Oh, we haven't heard about them. So that's interesting there. A little tidbit from Anthony Pettis. He was given $1 million behind the scenes after fighting Benson Henderson. Shout out to Benson Henderson. This episode, as I said, is called Free Britney Griner. WNBA star, two-time Olympic gold medalist, Britney Griner has been sentenced to 9 years and is forced to pay like 9 million rubles or whatever fuck the Russian money is called. I'm not sure what they said. But yeah, she's forced to pay 9 million and to serve 9 years in a Russian penal colony. She's immediately taken to this penal colony, and I was reading about. I tried to watch videos about this shit, and there's videos of it was like men's facilities. I didn't see any real videos for like the women's facilities. I couldn't find anything, but the men's facilities, they're saying it's like mental warfare. You have to stand from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and if you sit down one time, then you'll be punished. And it's just like fucking physical assault, sexual assault is just rampant there. Like from the guards on the prisoners. A video got leaked of a bunch of soldiers, like they're like holding the guy up in the air and the other soldier just beating the shit out of him. I was reading about, the conditions there are just crazy. All right, it's crazy conditions. They say it's like a compared to like a concentration camp, is what people were comparing it to. There's members of the Russian band Pussy Riot were sentenced to 2 years in a labor colony in 2012 over fucking protest. They did a protest performance at a Moscow theater. Got sentenced to 2 years in a penal colony in Russia. And one of them, whose name is Nadezhda Tolokonikova, went on a hunger strike in 2013 to protest that what she described as slave-like labor, including 16 to 17-hour work days and threats on her life at penal colony number 14. All right, this is the conditions that they're putting Britney Griner in, 2-time Olympian. It's all just like this political piece. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily about the fact that they found like a cartridge with less than half a gram of oil, or maybe it was like multiple cartridges, but from what I was reading, it was like less than half a gram of oil that she was found with. You know, it was no intention to... She wasn't trying to, like, sell drugs. She wasn't going to flood the streets with less than half a gram of THC oil. That was for personal use, and maybe it was or wasn't an accident. But 9 years in a penal colony where they... Yeah, man, it's rough. It's rough. And it's like, y'all know how Russia is. Y'all know how niggas is, how people are treated in Russia. Like, someone like Britney Griner, an openly gay woman, I could only, just, as I said, I talked about this when it was announced that she was arrested. And nobody had talked about this I was like, how the fuck has she been in prison or been in jail for this long and nobody knew? Like, how is this a thing? You know what I'm saying? I said it's got to be rough for her there, especially in this penal colony. Like, if you guys go to YouTube and like search, just people who have been in these colonies, and they tell you about the experiences of what's it like. I saw the video. He was like, the thing people try to tell you and you try to remind yourself is that you just can't think while you're here. And the guy was like, but it's hard for me not to remember what normal life is like and hope to be back there. But like, you have to just try not to think while you're in this fucking penal colony. 2-time Olympic gold medalist. The prime of her career. Not only bringing in hella money for the Russian government as she played professional ball in Russia as well. And is now in the middle of is going through her 9 years in a Russian penal colony, unfortunately. Hopefully, they do whatever they can to free Britney Griner. There was talks of trading. Trade 5 prisoners, if you can. Trade Trump. Just, y'all can have them. I don't know for what. Whatever y'all want. Let them live over there now. Hang out with Putin. We trade that nigga for Britney. Trade everybody, man. This is fucked up. All right? It's a fucked up situation. Free Britney Griner. All right? Because I can only imagine the horrors that the young lady is going through right now. Free Britney Griner. And if you guys would like to follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Babylon5Pod. I want to give a quick shout out to Unified Rules of Podcast. Just appreciate those guys. just the community that you build through social media, through like Twitter, Instagram. So shout out to Unified Rules Podcast. Shout out to Ben Severson of Combat History. And shout out to Geisha MMA on Instagram, possibly Twitter. I'm not sure. I don't follow Geisha on Twitter, I don't believe. Every time I say it, I'm like, I gotta check. But I haven't. I'm fucking sweating. It's hot as fuck in this room. Look at my arms. I'm glistening. It's an oven in here. I gotta get out of here. This is the end of this podcast. If you guys would like to email this podcast, it's at babylon5podcast@gmail.com. And I just took a shower. You guys can hit that like button anywhere that you guys are listening to this podcast. If you would like to follow this podcast on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Babylon5. You guys can buy some merchandise by going on over to teespring.com/store/BOFpod-shop. And lastly, if you guys would like to be my patrons, head on over to patreon.com/Babylon5pod. Thank you guys for being here another week with me. Episode 155, Free Britney Griner. And let's hope they free Britney Griner. I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and each other. And I'll see you when I see you. I'll holla.
Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now. Bang bling chant down Babylon kingdom, team make we chant down Vatican now.